What's up, YouTube? Your boy Rob, aka Card Shark. Now, everybody knows the rules. Some people, they always play by the rules. They're known as sheep. Sometimes I play by the rules and sometimes I don't. If you've never created content on YouTube, you probably don't know what it's like to be hated on YouTube. But if you weren't around 2006 and 2007, you really don't know, because there was no mechanisms in place to protect against the haters. Now, psychopaths and sociopaths. Let's put it this way. All psychopaths are sociopaths, but not all sociopaths are psychopaths. But either way, they really don't care what anybody thinks. They can't feel empathy. Understand? They're manipulative people. They're beautiful to watch on YouTube. Some of them start channels claiming to be professional gamblers, whose advice would be worthy of paying, let's say, $1,000 to be part of their inner circle, or $2,500 or $5,000 for personal coaching one-on-one. But to watch them manipulate is a beautiful thing, because that's how you learn. I'm always learning. No man is my friend. No man is my enemy. Every man is my teacher. So I watch this guy. He makes only truthful statements when he did the following. Gets one of his suckers to come on camera while he's vlogging. Says to the sucker, "How much money did you lose last month?" And the guy says X amount of dollars. So I think it was something like 40 grand. Then he says to him, "Is today the first day we ever met?" And the sucker says, "Yeah." "How much money we win today?" And I think he says something like 8 grand. Or for the day they won 8 grand. All the statements are truthful. You know, they won the 8 grand. First time meeting was today. And the sucker on his own lost 40 grand. What wasn't told in the video was the sucker had paid the gambling guru $750 to get his winning baccarat and blackjack strategies, and followed to a T in the game of baccarat, and he lost 40 grand. When you confront the sociopath, you know, say, "Hey, I lost 40 grand in an email," and how does a psychopath deal with it? Of course, he's going to blame you, but they have their own book. These guys are so predictable. That's why they're funny to me. So he's going to blame you. Now, once he blames you, he says, "Well, you got to get my personal coaching." And so the guy comes, pays him another grand for the personal coaching, and they win the 8 grand. You're still down 32 grand plus the 1750 you gave the guy, using the same system. But on camera, it looks like, hey, this guy on his own is a losing gambler. I turned him into a winner. You can be a winner too. All the statements are truthful, but they're totally misleading. That's what these guys do. They're manipulators. Oh, you didn't know. And even the guy attacking the con artist is a manipulator too. Yeah, buddy. He's a socio. Now, psychopaths, they're fucking everywhere. Psychopaths doesn't mean the guy's got 20 bodies back in the backyard. You know what I mean? Buried. 1% of the population are psychopaths. But they find certain jobs, you know, like lawyer, like CEO. In fact, about 10% of CEOs are psychopaths. 10 times the regular population. In the prison system, about 15% are psychopaths. So I just like to watch them and learn. And I got a guy who's a sociopath who wants to attack. It's a fucking joke to me, alright? There's a guy, I don't want to give him a shout out in this video because, you know, people might hate on this video. But apparently he got some harassing emails, you know. And again, he creates content on YouTube. And he basically said in the video, "I'm an easy guy to find." Which I like that he said that. I'm not an easy guy to find because I don't want to be found. Because when I'm found, there's always trouble. I'll give an example of a guy who didn't want to be found. Ken Patera. You know Ken Patera, professional wrestler. Former. At one time, he was an Olympic strongman in the weightlifting. Actually won a bronze medal, I think, in 1972. And he was the first man to unofficially lift 500 pounds over his head. Well, one day, after he's retired from the weightlifting game and became a professional wrestler, there's an incident at a McDonald's. And the cops get called, but he doesn't want to be found. So he goes back to his hotel or his motel. But he's famous, so the employees said it was Ken Patera who threw a rock through the window. Ken Patera maintains his innocence to this day. Well, the police showed up, but Ken didn't want to be bothered. The police wanted to have a discussion. Ken didn't want to have a discussion. So the way he put it, I stacked them like pancakes. Yeah, well, The judge didn't find that amusing, so he had to go to 2 years in prison. Some people just don't want to be found, don't want to have a discussion. All right, let's go into gambling. The reason I like poker is you got 3 conflicts in the world. You got man versus man. So of course you got that on the poker table. You got man versus environment. Don't really have that on the poker table, but if you want to stretch, use a metaphor, the luck can be the environment. And the thing is, 2 equally skilled players will never have the same result. It's a big lie that they say the cards will even out in the long run. It simply isn't true. If you were to be dealt 1,000,000 hands of poker and another player was to be dealt 1,000,000 hands of poker, you're not going to get the same amount of royal flushes, straight flushes, full house. It's all a lie. In fact, it can be shown, and was shown, in the theory of gambling and statistical logic by Epstein, that if you were playing an even game where outcome A has a 50% chance and outcome B has a 50% chance, and you did 1,000,000 trials, the least likely result would be 500,000 wins for A and 500,000 wins for B. In fact, the most common result will be one side will clearly be ahead the majority of the time. One side will clearly be the winner, even though it's an even game. So luck plays a factor in your gambling. And the third thing is man versus himself. And that's really the key to poker. There's going to be a lot of times where you undermine yourself. There's a lot of traps, like addiction, like bankroll management, like emotional control, going on tilt. One of my favorite players was Johnny World, or John Hennigan. He had issues at the beginning of his gambling career. He had drug and drink issues. Basically, he was drunk all the time. He would go from 0 to 1,000,000 over and over again. Finally, one day he ran up his bankroll to 2.4 million. And he says to Barry Greenstein, I want you to invest $400,000 for me. And Barry's like, look, Johnny, I know you. You're going to go through this money super quick and then you're going to be calling me for the 400 grand. No. He's like, Barry, it's going to be different this time. I want you to hang on to the 400K and 2 million will be my bankroll. Well, guess what? The very next day, he's asking for the 400K. Seems like the night before, he had just couldn't get enough action. He was playing blackjack, 7 spots, 10,000 a hand. That wasn't enough for him. He had them open another table side by side. He's playing 14 hands, 10,000 a shot. It's causing a commotion. There's railbirds. So the pit boss is saying, we got to close that table. Johnny says, no. I'll get my friends, poker playing friends were watching. You sit down. You play the other table. Well, he lost the 2 million. Drunk out of his mind, undermining himself. Has to call Barry for the rest of his roll. But Johnny turns it around. So Johnny World decides that he's not only going to give up the drugs and the drink, he's going to give up the gambling. He's worried the gambling might trigger in the future a drinking episode, because after losing large amounts of money, he would feel kind of depressed and start drinking. And it's a good idea when you're breaking an addiction that if you know something's really strong and triggering it, that you eliminate it. At first, at least, until you're strong, until you got the psychological of the addiction beat. To give an example, when I quit smoking, there's certain triggers with smoking. And the real issue I had was when I would drink, I would chain smoke. I'd smoke like 40 cigarettes. And the following day after drinking and smoking the 40 cigarettes, my lungs were bad. I had trouble breathing the next day. And I always blame the cigarettes. If A happens, I increased my cigarette intake, and B happens and I have trouble breathing, you make a correlation between the two. And I told you in other videos, don't do stuff like that. Make sure you know. Because in fact, what was happening was it was the drinking. Heavy drinking was causing fluid to leak into my lungs, and that was the cause of the breathing problems the following day, because I gave up smoking and the lung problems would still happen, but they would only happen on days I drank. And it wasn't until I think the 90s until they proved a relationship between heavy drinking and fluid being leaked into the lungs. So basically at the beginning of an addiction, it's good if something's triggering it to eliminate both. So when I quit smoking, I also eliminated the drinking, and I didn't drink for 10 months. And after I was strong, I knew I wasn't going to have another cigarette, then I went back to the drinking. So Johnny World decides, he's going to eliminate the gambling, even though he's a successful gambler. because it might trigger the drinking or the drugs. And so at first, that's exactly what happened. He eliminated both. But you know, fate steps in. He's got $80,000 still remaining on his full tilt account. And he and Ivy are on the golf course and they're golfing. And Ivy is trying to encourage him to gamble that 80 grand. And they come up with a betting where Phil Ivey can't par a hole for 20 grand. Well, Ivy makes miracle shot and pars it. You know, and John Hennigan's like upset, you know, like, whoa. So they do double or nothing. 40 for the next hole. Either Ivy's up 40 or what, he owes nothing. Ivy pars it again. Miracle shot. I'm talking like a pro golfer couldn't make this shot. Ivy makes the shot. It's a fluke. Bounces into the hole. Double or nothing. 80 for all the money in the full tilt account. So we come down to the 18th hole. It's for all the money. Can Ivy par the hole? No. So Buddy still has 80 grand in the full tilt account. So Hennigan's like, well, might as well gamble it. And he never looked back. Turned it into millions. And he no longer does drugs or drink. Years have went by, but he still makes a lot of money gambling. Now, I said I was going to finish this book. And tip number 1, the ultimate adjustment. Here's how to play against deceptive opponents. That's me, I'm deceptive. At the poker table. 1, call more often. 2, raise less often. 3, seldom value bet after they check. And so that's the Mike Carroll book. Done. So going back to these sociopaths that are manipulative, what I find interesting is it's easy to manipulate. It's easy to use statements to mislead or to make things sound more impressive than they are. It's done every day. It's done in advertising. It's done by media. There's a product on the market. It literally works 6% of the time. And it's like, you can't market the product by saying, our product fails 94% of the time. You know, that's not going to make people interested in using their product. So you got to get clever. So how do they market that product? Well, one of the alternatives to the product only works 3%. So it's like, they don't mention that their failure rate is 94% of the time. They're not going to mention that at all. They're not going to stress that. They're not going to bring that into conversation. So when they're marketing, they say something like, double your chances of success with our product over product A. See, they're very clever. But it doesn't change the math. The math is still 94% failure rate. And that's what these gambling gurus do. They're trying to make you think something's a lot better than it is.